My man Blake hit us up. He says, what if Nebraska now, what if they start winning some of these one-score games? What if they get over the hump, so to speak? Now, full disclaimer here. If you are a Nebraska fan, I am going to mention a lot of statistics that you already know about. So if you are a Nebraska fan, just kind of enjoy this, sit back, nod your head. Yep, we heard that one before. Because this is, in a lot of ways, for the non-believers in the Corn crowd. A lot of people that say, oh, Nebraska, they've been so close, that's all they're ever going to be. All right, that's fine. You can think whatever you want. You're entitled to your opinion, but we're going to make our case here for what this what if would mean. In the last 3 years, Nebraska is 4-19 in one-score games. They lost 9 one-score games in 2021, 5-22, and 5-23. They only won 4 of those one-score games because part of you kind of feels like, all right, well, surely if Nebraska's dropping that many one-score games, they must have won a couple, right? No, only 4. Now, all that really matters is that you had the last season with Matt Rhule. He wasn't there for the 21 or 22 season, so take that as you will. But if Nebraska starts winning one-score games, make no mistake about it, they will factor into the Big Ten title conversation. Notice what I did not say. I did not predict Nebraska to win the Big Ten. I did not say they're going to go out there and whoop Ohio State. I'm telling you Nebraska is going to factor in to the Big Ten conversation. The reason why I feel that way, this is not a roster that lacks juice. This is a roster that lacked cohesion in some ways in terms of being able to put it all together, but like they have played a lot of teams, good teams, down to the wire. Don't believe me? Iowa. 10-win football team last year. Say what you want about their offense. They had 10 wins, and Nebraska played them to 3 points. Probably should have won that game, if we're being honest with you. What would winning close look like if you're Nebraska? The great news if you're a Nebraska fan, nothing groundbreaking. Like if you just want to find a way to flip those one-score games oftentimes come down to one play. One play oftentimes comes down to you winning your matchup on that play. Now, the key factor here, you don't know what play is that going to be, so what does that matter? What does that emphasize? The details. And we've said this many times, Matt Rhule, man, he majors in the details. Majors in the details. It is what it is. Like, when I was around him, and I've said this before on this show, like everything down to what socks you wear is important to him. Heard stories last year at Nebraska practice, they're checking in what mouthpiece you're wearing. You say, JD, that's so stupid. What does that have to do with anything? It has everything to do with anything. Because the little things make up the big things. If I can trust you to wear the right mouthpiece at practice, then I can trust you on 4th and 1 when we need to get this play. We need to get this stop. We need to get the extra yard, whatever it is. And so what I'm trying to say here is if this team buys in and takes it upon themselves to do things Matt Rhule's way and this staff's way, they're going to win 7 ball games. Like, I feel pretty confident in putting that number out there. They're going to be a 7-win football team right in that neighborhood. And that's great. Hey, made a bowl game. The bowl drought is over. Vibes are high. You're talking about what you're going to do in 2025, and that's all well and good. But, like, here's the thing, too, with this staff. Like, nobody there is signing up to win 7 ball games. As much as you would have taken that last year, you want to go 7-5, that sounds a lot better than 5-7, but, like, nobody's signing up to go win 7 ball games. So how do you improve upon that? How do you raise the standard there? Well, you talk about the one-score games. I think every Nebraska fan would tell you, like, the turnovers were a massive issue last year. Like, they were the issue last year. We talked to Will Compton, and he gave us some adult language as to how he felt about the turnovers last year. Nebraska was -1.5 on the turnover margin last year. So they're spotting their opponents before the ball even gets snapped, 1.5 possessions. It's hard to win a fight when you're spotting someone extra punches. At quarterback, they had a 6% interception rate as a team. Good for 132nd in the country. There's only 134 teams. So they're giving the ball away like it's free candy on Halloween. Hard to win football games that way. So the reason for optimism, as you've probably heard about if you watched any 10-second clip of spring football on Twitter at Nebraska, is Dylan Raiola is supposed to be the guy to turn that around, right? And I'll say this, you play Dylan Raiola as your starting quarterback whenever that time is. I think it's game 1 for the record. He's your starter because of his ceiling and where he can take your offense, because he's got an arm that is just quite frankly next level. Like, he throws the football, it looks different than anybody else on your roster. but I think he stays your guy. He stays as the guy for you if he makes good decisions. Now, I'm not proposing that you start Dylan Raiola and give him a short leash, and if he throws an interception, you yank him. I'm not saying that, but I am saying a lot of pressure, I think, is on Dylan Raiola to make good decisions. I think there's arguably just as much, if not more pressure, on Marcus Satterfield, the offensive coordinator at Nebraska, to help him in his maturation process. Like, we go into the game during game week, like we have our game plan. It is whatever Dylan Raiola feels good about. If he doesn't like something in that playbook, he struggled with it during the week, he's having trouble making that throw or making that read, whatever it is, that's not in the game plan. Why? Because that allows more opportunity for error, for turnovers, for things that have killed you in the past if you're in Nebraska. So you have to really bring him along, I think, slowly but surely, as much as he's able to work with, because the last thing you'd want to do is put too much on his plate and then have that lead to him having his confidence bruised early on in his college career. Now, I'm not trying to speak to the competitive makeup of Dylan Raiola. I'm just saying that feels like common knowledge or common sense to where you want to boost and nurture and help your true freshman quarterback his first time starting in college football. Feel like that's not a stretch. So with that being the case, it's also, I think, worth noting, we talked about the floor, but like the ceiling for Dylan Raiola and why he would be your starting quarterback can't just be glossed over. Like, he changes the way that defenses have to play you. Like, he can make that 50, 60-yard strike downfield. He can make it, from what I understand, semi-routinely, enough to win football games at a high level. And last year, Nebraska ran for 175 yards a game. The defense allowed 18 points a game. A lot of that production in both those sectors is back at Nebraska. So from a gameplay perspective, you still have the bread and butter. You lean on the defense, you let them cook, you turn around, you hand the ball off, you move the ball forward, line of scrimmage, let's push and pull a little bit. Let's make sure that we still play that physical brand of football. But then when the defense wants to put their hand in the cookie jar, then Dylan Raiola pushes the ball down the field, strike up the band, vibes are high. That's a way where Dylan Raiola and Nebraska and Marcus Satterfield can elevate past 7 wins. They can be an 8-win football team. We had Will Compton on here tell us he thinks they're a 10-win football team. I think 9 isn't unrealistic. If you go 8-4, you're happy with it. But I think a lot of it, to me, speaks to Dylan Raiola and his ability to take care of the football and then capitalize when money's on the table. So what will happen if Nebraska starts winning football games? It means Dylan Raiola started balling. It means they stopped shooting themselves in the foot. And it means that Nebraska is a force in the Big Ten. And if they get some momentum too, we talk about this a lot, they get some momentum on the recruiting trail now because of the proof of concept on the field, and Matt Rhule gets to do what he does, which is develop. Nebraska's not going quietly into that good night in the Big Ten. And I understand the Big Ten is stacked, man. Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State. Well, Ohio State is Ohio State. They're a Death Star this year. USC, I don't expect to stay down, but Nebraska now, they are going to factor in if they start winning some close ball games. And full transparency, I expect them to start winning some close ball games. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.